Oh, hey there.
Oh, hey there.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Bradley.
And this is The Origin of Weird.
By the History Buffoons.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you today, Kate?
I'm good. I'm a little
Excellent.
sluggish, but
Yeah.
I'm good.
That seems to be a theme as of late on our podcast.
That's fair. We tend to do it on weekends after like a full work week. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, we fit it in when we can.
we sure do.
And that's when it works. And that's okay. It's currently snowing out right now.
Oh my God, so much snow.
A lot of snow, actually.
Yeah.
I mean-
it's Wisconsin. Well, it's my area of Wisconsin's first big snow.
Right. Yeah. So it's come down quite a bit since 11, 10, even before, I think. So anyways, yeah, it's snowing. So
And we're going to make this quick because all my cats are out.
so we don't want to.
This will be fun.
Well, good thing this is just an origin
Yeah.
because our origins are usually on the quicker side. So
Yeah.
the main one I'm concerned about is the one that's currently
The orange one?
Yeah, eyeing up a cord right there.
Hey! Oi!
Oi!
No! Oliver! Oliver! Okay, we're going to make this quick. Okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about today?
You tell me.
Okay. That's right, because I have the information.
Yes, and I respond to it. Oh, Oliver.
He pulled on my ears. Okay.
He pulled on my ears.
We are going to talk about two different Victorian-era professions.
Okay.
Yes. So, the first one,
Yes.
they're called knocker-uppers.
Knocker uppers. I mean, like people that just go around and get people pregnant.
No.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to go to England. And this is during their Industrial Revolution, which was between like 1760 to like 1840.
Okay.
And then plus some.
Sure.
This profession goes on beyond the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
But it was started because
Of the
yes, of the
Revolution.
revolution. So it was a time when factories were just popping up everywhere.
Sure.
And farmers were feeling less needed,
Okay.
if you will.
Right.
Because all these factories are now making farm equipment that can replace them.
Sure. No, it makes sense.
So farmers actually moved into the cities
Oh.
and started working in factories.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you recall, farmers, the traditional cliche, they're woken up by a rooster,
Yeah.
the morning sun shining through, and they don't have like alarms to like actually tell them when to go to work because it's flexible.
This is where people went around and knocked on people's doors, isn't it?
It is.
I've seen this. That's cool.
Yes.
Okay.
So farmers can get up whenever they want. So
Yeah.
when they're moving into the city, they realize, oh crap, I need to be on time all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah. So people are needing a stable income, which is a scarcity right now.
Sure.
And people cannot afford to miss a single day's work, right?
Well, right. Yeah.
So they had to arrive at their factory jobs on time every day without fail. And if they were late, you'd lose that day's earnings or
Yeah.
even potentially lose your job.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And there were plenty of people to replace you.
Yeah. Everyone needed work. So
Yeah. And the alarm clock was, in fact, invented in the late 1700s. So it was around.
Oh, really?
But it wasn't reliable and it was way too expensive for some of these like
Yeah.
low middle class individuals.
Right. No, that makes sense.
So no alarm clocks, no rooster. What are these factory workers going to do?
You're going to rely on somebody.
They hire knocker-uppers.
That's so funny.
It's called knocker-uppers. So people would walk around these cities and ring their doorbells and knock on their doors to wake them up for their shifts.
Right.
And sometimes as early as like 3 a.m. Like these
Jesus.
knocker-uppers would stay up all night, and that was their third shift work,
Yeah,
shift.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, in fact, it was cheaper to hire a person to wake them up than it was to buy an alarm clock.
Isn't that wild to think about?
Yeah.
That is pretty crazy because knowing that like this person had to be on time to your place.
Yes.
It's like, what if multiple people needed to be up at 3 a.m.? They just have to hire individual people for themselves? Is that what they did?
So it depends on the area. There's a knocker-upper per like square footage,
Yeah.
several mile radius.
Okay.
And they would go to the houses that need it first. And a lot of times they would have these signs in the window say, please wake me up at such and such time.
That's so
or
weird.
it was like a verbal contract kind of a thing.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah. So there were even some factories who would hire knocker-uppers for their own employees.
Which makes sense because they want their people into work.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So the unique profession grew throughout the cities, and of course there had to be some curmudgeons. With all the noise coming from the streets, rapping on doors, ringing doorbells, there are plenty of people who did not want to be woken up at that time.
But were because of that?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So even other family members in the household are getting woken up.
Yeah, like dad needs to get up at 4.
Yes.
But
mom and the kids don't.
They don't need to get up till 6 or whatever it
Exactly.
might be. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Sure.
So the knocker-upper solution was to carry really long bamboo sticks because of their lightweight.
Yeah.
And they would put like a poker or a bell or something metal on the end, and they would tap on windows.
So they knew which window, obviously.
Yes. And that's how they would wake up their paying clients.
That's so weird.
They also don't want to wake up these neighbors who are not paying for the service, which are relying on them to be loud.
Right.
So this was another way to be like, okay, we're not waking you up. We're going to be really quiet. Wake up the person that is paying for us.
That's so weird.
Smarty pants. So there were good and there were bad knocker-uppers.
Okay.
The good ones would rap on your windows until they alerted the person. So there would be like a wave out the window. The blinds were going up. The candles were lit inside the room.
So they basically knew their job was done there.
Exactly.
And move on.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
The bad ones would rap on the window 3 or 4 times and just move along.
Oh.
Like time is money type of thing.
Well, that's...
Yeah, so...
I get it, but it's like that sucks because if you don't know that your person's actually awake, then... Oh, dear.
Yeah, you're being paid for a service.
Right.
And if you didn't get them up, I don't think they're going to pay you to come back.
I wouldn't pay them.
Exactly.
Screw that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So police would also supplement their income by being knocker-uppers.
Well, I guess if they're out and about, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if they're on their beat, they're making their rounds in the early morning, they will just go around knocking on windows.
Sure.
So they're going to be there anyway. Why not?
That, makes sense.
Yeah. So this kind of leads me to a story that could unravel for hours if we let it. Okay. So I am going to be brief because it is not quite about the knocker-uppers, but it has a knocker-up in the story.
Gotcha.
So in August of 1888, a man by the name of Charles Cross was a driver at the time, and he was on his way to work at about 3:40 in the morning. So he noticed a woman lying on the ground in an area of London called Bucks Row, and she had been stabbed.
Oh, geez.
Yes. So while he was confirming what he saw, another gentleman came up to him.
Okay.
His name was Robert Paul. And together the men are like, there's a woman dead here on the streets of London. What do we do? Well, together they found a policeman who was a knocker-upper at the time.
Okay.
Yes. So they go to him and they're like, hey, there's a woman back here on Bucks Row. She's dead. And he's like, I'll be there when I'm done with my knocker-uppers.
So he's just like, yeah, well. Exactly.
He just kept doing his knocker-upper job.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when that policeman finally did get to the scene, an investigation was already going.
Sure.
He kind of missed the boat. But get this.
Okay.
Get this. The woman was Mary Nichols. She was potentially, not entirely confirmed, but most likely, the very first victim of Jack the Ripper.
I was going to say this has to deal with Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yes. So now if the policeman had stopped doing his knocker-upper job, could he have maybe gone to the scene and maybe caught the person? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know.
They never caught Jack the Ripper. So
they didn't. But for those who do want to continue down this rabbit hole, because like I said, the thread could unravel for hours.
Right.
The first man who found her, Charles Cross, his testimony was taken as fact for years, but until 2012.
Oh.
Cross became a suspect.
Right.
Due to several factors.
Sure.
He lived and worked in the area. Robert Paul, the second person to arrive at the crime scene, gave a slightly different account of Cross's position when he arrived.
Oh.
So the discrepancy fuels the theory that Cross had actually perhaps done the murder himself.
Right.
And the name Cross is a pseudonym.
Oh.
It's fake.
Okay.
That's not even his real last name.
Gotcha.
His real last name was Lechmere. It's spelled Lechmere.
Okay.
So the case is entirely circumstantial, but like I said, unravel 4 hours. Yeah. So if you wanted to continue that story,
by all means, yeah.
By all means. But there is a knocker-upper in that story.
That's funny.
Okay. So now many women also use this profession as a way to financially stabilize themselves. And they would use this kind of as a side hustle while also still working in factories.
Sure.
And children would also be knocker-uppers and then go to continue being in school all day.
Okay.
So one such woman, we have Mary Smith.
Mary Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She would walk her streets with a pea shooter.
Oh, really?
She had a tube that she would blow into like a straw.
Yeah.
And a hardened pea
to hit the window or
hit
whatever?
the window.
Really?
And that's how she woke up her clients.
And it must have worked because
people know who she is.
Well, exactly.
And there's a photographer that took pictures of her, and he shot to stardom based on this picture.
Did he really?
Yeah, which I'll have in our social media.
That's funny.
So her nearest competition was like 3 miles away. It was an old man using a fishing rod. But so she had like about 3 miles of her own space.
Sure.
But she would charge her clients about 6 pence a week, which is about 6 pennies.
Okay.
So at one point, these knocker-uppers could have up to like 100 clients a day.
Wow.
Yes. So Mary Smith was a knocker-upper for about 60 years.
60
a long
years?
time.
Holy shit.
A long time.
Wow.
And her daughter, Molly Moore, was one of the last knocker-uppers in England.
Okay.
She was in that profession for about 20 years and used her mother's pea shooter.
That's funny.
Once her mother retired.
Okay.
So eventually her job fell away as more and more people were buying and relying on alarm clocks.
Oh, they got cheaper, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by the 1940s, 1950s, this profession has pretty much entirely died out, although it actually did continue in some areas in England until the 1970s.
That's wild to think about.
Mm-hmm. The last knocker-upper retired from the job in 1973 in Bolton, which is near Manchester.
It's really weird to think that 6 years before I was born, people were still doing that.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy because, I mean, 1973,
yeah.
You wouldn't think they would need that type of profession at that point.
Right.
All right. That's weird.
So in reference to your pregnancy knocked up, the term kind of adapted throughout history. It wasn't something that it did not come from knocker-uppers.
Right.
What it could have come from, but not clear, is the term knocking house, which was another name for a brothel.
Oh, okay.
So, but the origins remain completely unclear.
Oh, really?
But that is a potential. The brothels were called knocking houses at one point, knocked up.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, our next profession.
Oh, dear.
Yes. Victorian Londoners, they love their dogs just as much as we love our dogs today.
Yep.
But they weren't great about cleaning up after themselves.
So they would leave the shit in the streets?
They would leave the shit in the streets. Streets.
That's weird.
Streets. There we go.
Well, let's move on.
So while some areas were kept pretty tidy by like hired street orderlies,
okay,
a much larger group of people called pure finders, P-U-R-E,
okay,
pure finders, roamed the streets with covered buckets collecting dog poop.
That sounds like a terrible job.
Pure finders were paid by tanneries.
Oh.
Who used dog feces along with lime in the process to purify and soften leather.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So the name pure finder comes from the French word pure, which is P-U-E-R.
Yeah.
Which means animal dung used in tanning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for some reason, Victorians also referred to dog waste as pure, P-U-R-E, hence the name for those who collected it.
Gotcha.
So our understanding of pure finders comes from an investigative journalist named Henry Mayhew.
Okay.
He was considered one of the first, and he meticulously documented these pure finders of London.
That's what a weird thing to do, but okay.
Yeah. So he shed some light on the struggles of those without regular employment and who resorted to pure finding to survive.
Like supplement their income, if you will.
Yes. So Mayhew estimated that in the mid-1800s, there were approximately 200 to 300 pure finders in London alone.
Wow.
Mostly women, and they had difficulty earning a living through more conventional means.
Right. So that makes sense why they would maybe go that route.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So,
yes.
Okay. Makes sense.
So pure finders earned between 8 and 10 pence per bucket.
Okay.
Which is actually pretty respectable for that time.
Yeah, no kidding. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So the alkaline content in the dog poop was what drew them to the dog excrement. Okay. So it was a dry, limey sort, is what this guy quoted as saying in his investigative journalism.
Okay.
So it was the most valuable because of its superior purifying properties.
Oh.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it might seem like a lowly profession, but average income was about 13 pounds a year, which was pretty good for that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was compared to other working class Londoners.
That's kind of weird to think about that. Mm-hmm. Someone picking up shit could make a living, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So the job of a pure finder was simple. Walk the streets of London, collect dog droppings. This required a bucket with a hinged lid to conceal their contents and their odor.
Sure.
Keep flies away.
Yep.
But the key difference between modern dog owners and Victorian pure finders is the use of disposable bags. Right. So according to Mayhew, the journalist, many pure finders use their bare hands.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Mayhew wrote in London Labour and London Poor, quote, "The pure finder is often found in the open streets as dogs wander, always carrying a handle basket, generally with a cover, to hide the contents with a black leather glove. Many of them dispense with the glove, as they say it's much easier to wash their hands than to keep the glove fit for use."
I mean, I suppose, but still gross.
So because tanners preferred a specific type of dog waste, pure finders developed techniques to achieve that desired consistency.
Oh.
They would mix droppings with loose mortar scraped from brickwork.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm, to make it like super dry.
Interesting.
So the number of pure finders wasn't limited to like the people's aversion to the work, but rather by the market.
Sure.
Yeah. So the most successful pure finders had secured contracts with dog kennels, ensuring like a steady supply.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
And then, of course, others were left to like scour the streets.
Of course.
But the relatively high earning potential of the trade even led to the development of a dog waste supply chain.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. So some pure finders became middlemen.
Middlemen, what is that?
And they would pay the poorest individuals a small portion of what the tanners would pay to actually do the collecting.
So they wouldn't have to do it, but they
themselves.
Get the major part of the profit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
That's weird.
So the waste was literally rubbed into animal hides during the tanning process to purify them before being crafted into leather gloves, book bindings, shoes. So although it seems quite gross,
it does.
It's worth noting that the tanning industry in Morocco still uses pigeon droppings for the same purpose.
That's just weird.
And it's called batting or baiting, BATING.
Okay.
So something to consider next time you go shopping for any leather goods.
I don't really buy a lot of leather, so I don't think I'm going to have to worry about how much shit was put on my leather gloves or whatever I would happen to buy for that matter. But that's weird.
But that's just two of many weird professions in the Victorian area London. Right. Pure finders and knocker-uppers.
It's not. It's funny because I just saw something on the knocker-uppers.
Did you?
Not that long ago. So it's funny that you bring it up. Because, I'm like, what kind of job would... That's just weird. Mm-hmm. It's a human alarm clock, basically.
Human alarm clock, exactly.
That's just funny.
Yeah.
And no, I would not want to go walking around picking up dog shit.
With your bare hand.
I don't remember. This was 2 weeks ago, maybe. I was driving next to a truck, but it had pictures of a dog and stuff. Like they advertised on their truck that they would come and clean up the dog poop in your area or whatever.
Oh, so it was an actual service that they provided.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, that's weird. So it's modern day Pure Finder.
Sure is.
I don't know how busy they are, but not a job for me.
Probably not.
No.
Same.
But that's pretty funny. I will pass on both those jobs. That's weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
That is weird. Well,
I suppose.
All right, buffoons. That's it for today's episode.
Buckle up because we've got another historical adventure waiting for you next time. Feeling hungry for more buffoonery? Or maybe you have a burning question or a wild historical theory for us to explore?
Hit us up on social media. We're History Buffoons Podcast on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also email us at historybuffoonspodcast@gmail.com. We are Bradley and Kate. Music by Corey Akers.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and turn those notifications on to stay in the loop.
Until next time, stay curious and don't forget to rate and review us.
Remember, the buffoonery never stops.